Hello everybody, this is Astocky here, and today I'm doing something just a little bit different than I've been doing lately. I thought I would do a quick tutorial, just cleaning up some of the grass here. I'm currently actually in the Solitary Craft pack. Now I guess you'd call it my own custom version of the Solitary Craft pack, because I decided which mods I was going to install and which ones I wasn't. For this tutorial you won't really need many of them. The only one you will really need, other than the default, is probably it's probably Tree Capitator, and you'll definitely need Thermal Expansion, because Thermal Expansion is really what I'm going to basically talk about in this tutorial. So let's just start with IC2. So if you were to do a bit of a setup with IC2, you would need some certain machines to kind of really get yourself going efficiently. Now, particularly if you've got GregTech installed, making some of these machines is quite difficult. I chose not to install it, so I have the default recipes, but even still, to get yourself, I guess, this basic, what I would call a basic IC2 setup, I'm going to go to creative mode for a second to make it a bit easier, where you have a generator, you have a bit of copper cable from the generator going across, and then you would put, say, a macerator, then you would put an electric furnace. You know, just this basic kind of setup here takes around about 27 iron, because there's about 9 iron in each of those machines, plus a bunch of tin, plus a bunch of copper, plus a bunch of rubber. So it's a pretty expensive setup. Now, if you build the generator and the macerator first, the electric furnace really only takes half as much ore, but you're still looking at around about 20 iron for this basic recipe, and particularly early on in the game that can be something that's quite difficult to do. It works very well. The other problem is that it's not automated, so if you wanted to get this to work, you would need to have Buildcraft installed, which thankfully the Solitary Craft does. Then you'd need some pipes, probably cobblestone transport pipes are the easiest. Then you'd need some wooden pipes, then you'd need some redstone engines, and you'd probably need some torches, and you probably want a chest at the end for it all to go into. So I mean, you can see pretty quickly that this becomes a reasonably complicated build to get going. So we'll put it like that. That will take the ores out, and then we'll use those stone piping and go up and across and into the top of the electric furnace, and then we can have another wood pipe pulling it out, and we'll plug another redstone engine there. And just in case something like that happens, you'll also need a Buildcraft wrench. So I mean, you can see that while I guess it's a tried and true build that sort of everyone does, it's kind of expensive. You know, it takes a lot of iron, and particularly the automation's a bit ugly, and it's not that great, which leads me to the actual mod that I am doing the tutorial on today, which is Thermal Expansion. Now, I don't know why it is, but not a lot of people seem to really know that much about Thermal Expansion. In Hayoki's latest Solitary Craft series, he starts to use Thermal Expansion because he's got GregTech installed, and that just makes everything crazy. And you will need Buildcraft for this to really work effectively, but pretty much if you're installing the Solitary Craft pack, you'll have that by default anyway. So the first machine that you're going to need to make to really get this to work is a Stirling engine. They used to be called just a stone engine. And for some reason they're not appearing here. Let's try if I put engine in. Would help if I could spell. So you're going to need the same redstone torches, or you can use levers, kind of whatever really works for you. But you're going to need to start by making one of these. And the reason for that is, I'll grab that wrench again, is because all of the engines in Thermal Expansion require Buildcraft energy. So it's a pretty basic setup. The first thing that you're going to make, and I'll bring NEI up for this, is called a pulverizer. And basically it does exactly the same job as a macerator. Now, you need one of these engines, but thankfully all that engine requires is a piston, which is just 1 iron and a piece of redstone, Actually, I'll show you the full recipe for it. So you need 2 stone gears, and stone gears are cobblestone around a wood gear, and wood gear is just sticks. So really easy to get those. And you need a piston, which is a vanilla Minecraft item, just 1 iron, 1 redstone and some cobble, which is so easy to get. And then you need some glass and some more cobble. So really easy recipe you can do. All you need to do is just have a single piece of iron and some redstone. So pretty much if you can make an iron pick and go mining for just a few minutes, you can make one of these engines. So then the next thing you need to do is make a pulverizer. Now it looks like a bit of a complicated recipe, but it's really just 2 copper, and copper is absolutely everywhere, 2 redstone and 1 gold. The gold is probably the thing that's a little bit harder to come by, but you will still find gold everywhere below level 30. Piston, the same as the engine, so pretty easy to make. The last thing is a machine frame. Now that requires 4 iron and a piece of gold. But if you think about it, that just cost 5 iron. Yeah, it just costs 5 iron, 3 redstone, 2 gold, because you need 1 for the machine and 1 for the actual engine itself, 4 glass, 2 flint, 4 cobble and 3 planks. Now it's quite a lot of ingredients, but it's actually only about half the iron you need for a macerator, plus you need less copper, and you don't have to go trying to find rubber trees and things, so it's actually, quite good. And in terms of this machine at the back here, that is much easier to make than a generator. So overall it's kind of a net win for you. So then we will go into the pulverizer, and it's just like a macerator. So we take some iron ore and we throw it in, and then we turn our engine on by putting some coal in it. It's going to start to pump, it'll start to build up power, and once those megajoules build up a little bit, it'll start to work. Now the other advantage this machine has over a macerator is you certainly won't notice it by running it with just a single Stirling engine, because basically the more megajoules you have stored here, the higher this little bar fills up, the faster it basically pulverizes. So you can see there we've got one little tiny notch at the bottom filled, which means it's working quite slow. Now if I was to say, go on creative again, put another 3 of these engines on, put a piece of coal in each of them, and then try to work out how to turn them on. We need some more redstone torches. You will see now that when I put the next piece of, see how the power is building up much more quickly. And if I get my iron ore again and chuck it in, you will see that when it actually does start, it's actually going much more quickly now. Now again, each one of these only produces 1 MJ, 1 Minecraft joule per tick, which isn't a lot of power, but it does run off 1. The other problem is, as you can see by that, is it has all these coloured sides on it, and each one of those coloured sides means something that I guess for people who haven't used it before could potentially be a little intimidating. Basically the way that it works, turn NEI off for a moment, you have this configuration tab. This represents the left, the right, the top, the bottom and the back. Each one of them has a colour, each of the boxes has a colour. So at the moment it's taking inputs from the back and from the left, putting main output in the right and splitting the secondary output between the top and the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up to put the outputs on the left, to do nothing on the right, nothing on the top, nothing on the bottom, and nothing on the back. So basically that'll mean any Buildcraft pipe attached, you don't need an engine for it, it will automatically push that way. Which gets me to the next machine that I'm going to need. I'll put the redstone torches there and get that set up now. So the next machine you would build after you had built that is a powered furnace. And I'll show you the recipe now for a powered furnace. Hitting all the wrong keys. Come on, I want NEI. Because I'm on the creative tab, it won't let me bring it up automatically. Okay, there we go, creative off. So now a powered furnace is pretty much the same recipe as we used before, except this time instead of flint, you need brick blocks. So that means you have to get a little bit of clay, otherwise it's exactly the same recipe and you need just a piece of redstone at the top instead of a piston. So again, quite a cheap recipe, and once again it will also run off a single Stirling engine. If we put that coal in the back, and it has the same interface. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to set it to take its input, which is blue, on the right hand side, and then I'm going to set it to do its output on the left hand side. And if I put a chest just here, you will see that what you've actually got there is an automatic actually, let's just demonstrate. We put the ore in, it smelts the ore. You can see it has power built up in it even though the engine's stopped now. You can see this one here is building its power up. You can see that finished. It pushed it over to this side. It's now in here. And there should have been 2 units of pulverized iron that came out of it as well. I'm not sure where the second one went. Let's just try that again. Ah, there is 2, there you go. So the second one you can't actually see because what it does is it makes it disappear. So you can see that it makes it disappear as soon as it starts smelting it. So you can see that you have an excellent production chain, and it's really quite small, quite compact, quite efficient, and you could even, if you were to use power pipes, you could even make it smaller by having one engine power the both of them. Although as you can see it doesn't really build up a lot of power, so it's only cooking at about half efficiency. That's the other advantage of these machines. With IC2 you need expensive complicated overclockers and things like that to make the machines work faster. These ones just need more power. So maximum power for this is 4. That engine was putting out 1, which means it was working at a quarter speed. This one, the maximum power is 2. We were putting in 1, so it's working at a half speed. Now that brings me to the next bit of a setup that I want to show, and it's a combination of a couple of different mods, and what it does is it allows you to quite quickly and efficiently build up a really good setup that's almost self-running. And the actual setup actually has lots of power left over as well that you could do lots of other things with. So this machine here uses 2, this machine here uses 4, so the total that they need is 6 to run at top speed. So the engine that I'm looking at here is a biogas engine from Forrestry. So I'm going to grab myself one of those, and hopefully if I put it down I can bring up the GUI for it. Not warmed up, not producing any megajoules, not doing anything. So unfortunately that's not going to work quite like that. But if I put it, there's a couple of different ways to do this. I'm going to do a basic setup. Now I'll go for a slightly more complicated setup, just because that's a pretty cool thing to do. But that's going to involve me first of all showing you another machine. Now this is another reason that I love the thermal expansion mod. The machine is called a magma crucible. Now it needs nether brick, which is not that difficult to get if you go to the nether. It's quite easy to get, in fact. So you're going to need one of those, and basically what this machine does is it produces lava once you give it some power. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the interface for this machine as well, and it takes its input from anywhere you want and puts its output to wherever you want. So I'm going to put the output, which is the orange side, to the top, and I'm going to turn off everything else. Now what this machine does is you put cobblestone or netherrack or kind of anything that you want into it. I'm going to put cobble in because cobble is really just the easiest, and it goes in that middle slot. And once you give this machine lots of power, it will basically pump lava out the top of it, or magma out the top of it. So I'm going to just here in the background try a little bit more room. Now you don't need all of this room. I'm doing just a kind of quick and easy setup, but you could easily do this in a different way. I'm going to put this just here, and then I'm going to get myself a wooden once again I'm going to have to go to NEI because NEI just seems to be better. Okay, that's not what I was hoping for. we want wooden conductive pipe, not power pipe. So place the wooden conductive pipe there, and then you can use, no, maybe it's stone. Let's just type in conductive. So you can use wooden conductive pipes to get the energy out, then you can use stone or golden. Golden has 1/10 of the loss of stone, but because we're only doing it one step, stone is really pretty easy. But if you've got gold, there's no issues with doing it that way. And now we'll put a redstone torch here. Now this machine won't start, and the reason that it won't start is because to start it needs lava. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to put a machine just here, and we're also going to need a machine from Forrestry called a fermenter. And basically what the fermenter does is it takes water as an input and saplings and compost or manure or fertilizer. Now I find compost is the easiest because it only takes wheat and dirt, and it is really easy to get it. So as you can see, you get 4 pieces of compost for each 4 pieces of wheat. So I'm just going to spawn in 4, put them in the bottom here in this slot. Now if I can find a tree, now I'm always spawning in these snow biomes lately, but there's a tree over there, but you can really quickly, really easily end up getting yourself, you know, a dozen saplings or more. So I'm going to just grab, just to demonstrate, I'm going to grab just 12 oak saplings just to kind of show you how this machine works. Now if you wish to, you can actually do it quite easily yourself by using buckets, but a much better way to do it is actually to use some kind of system that automatically puts water into it. And now that's where the next machine comes in from the Thermal Expansion mod. Now the next machine is called an aquifer. So you can see it takes 2 pieces of tin, a machine frame like before, a bucket, some glass, and it also takes this other thing called a pneumatic servo. Now the reason I'm looking at this machine is, once again, it uses less iron than a Buildcraft pump does, but not only does it use less iron, it also doesn't take any energy to run. It basically runs by itself. Now what it can't do is output anywhere near as much water as a Buildcraft pump does. I think a Buildcraft pump puts out something crazy like you know, 3 or 4 buckets per sort of second. This thing is kind of limited to only 1 bucket per second, but again, you need 4 redstone engines to really get that Buildcraft engine working, sorry, that Buildcraft pump working the way that it should. This one doesn't need anything, it just needs to sit in a pool of water. So we'll grab a bucket of water, put ourselves back on creative for a second, put water in the 4 corners. There we have our water, and you can see instantly it starts flowing. Now each one of those represents a bucket, so you can see that it's doing about a bucket a second, but you can also see that it's filling this up quite quickly. Now when you built this machine to start with, you were going to need to have a Stirling engine at the back of it. There's just no way around that, because you don't want to do any of this stuff without at first at least having a pulverizer. So you're going to need to get that Stirling engine again, and I'm going to get a lever this time, or a lever depending on where you're from. I'm going to place it there, turn it on. Again, coal is so easy to come by. So we'll put our coal in there, and it will start pumping. Now it doesn't produce a lot of energy again, but it doesn't really take a lot of energy either for this to start to work. So you can see there it's taken the compost in. That bar there is the compost use, that bar there is the sapling use, and it will start to produce and put out biomass. Now it won't produce a huge amount of it, but again it doesn't need to produce a huge amount either. So what I'm going to do now is do the next step that I almost always do. Unfortunately, it means I'm going to have to just break this just a little bit, but I'm going to get I've got my stone waterproof pipes. I'm going to get my wooden waterproof pipe. So you can see there the little interface on the side of it has gone green to start to show that it's producing some fuel. So basically what this machine will do is it will now take all the water it needs, stupid snow biome, and it will produce biomass with the help of a redstone engine. It will start to pump that biomass out. That biomass will now go into the tank and split itself pretty much evenly between the tank of this one and the tank of that one. Now they don't need very much biomass to actually start themselves up. What they do need though is these machines aren't like combustion engines that get hot and shut down. These ones actually, if they aren't hot, don't work, and once they get up to heat they basically keep working forever. And that's where that magma machine comes in, because if at any stage you ever run out of saplings or anything here, you will eventually run out of fuel. Now you can produce a lot of fuel from not very much biomass, and so I like to kickstart that a little bit by turning this machine here around. I'm not sure though, actually this should work. So now it's got the stuff that it needs to turn on, but it won't turn on yet because it needs something to kickstart it. And so that's where the single bucket of lava comes in. You will need one bucket to get it going. So now it's got the lava. If we look at the GUI for it, it should start to heat up. And once it starts to heat up, maybe it doesn't have enough fuel yet. Like I said, it could be that this does take a little while to get going, but normally because you can't spawn items in, this will normally have basically got the engines pretty close to full by the time you actually get around to having this all done. So yeah, it's going, it's going. Let's just say we had a bit more in the form of biomass. Let's just throw a second bucket in. So there you go, you can see it's now that it's got the fuel, it's cranking up, that fills up and it starts pumping. Now it's currently putting out 5 megajoules per tick. So much more power than was being put out by a single steam engine, and at the moment it's putting it into this magma crucible here, which I have just messed up by clicking on with an engine. But this fermenter is super slow, running at 1 megajoule per tick, so we will use our engine and turn it around, and so now you'll be able to see that this is producing, going down much more quickly, and you can see the fuel is coming out much faster now. So that's basically what I would do once I get this done, and you can see that line, each line is a bucket. So what I tend to do is wait until I've got about 2 buckets in each one. So getting close there. You can see it doesn't really take too long for these kind of things to start to work their way up. So it's building up pretty quickly, and then what I would do is I would turn this engine back around so that it's facing towards the magma crucible. So you can see here the power is building up really fast, 4,000, 4,300, and the engine's just gone green, which means it's just getting into kind of its stride. 5,000. Now the way this system works is it needs to produce 22,000 Minecraft joules to be hot enough to start to produce its first piece of lava. So just to speed things up a little bit, I wonder if I need to speed it up at all. Yeah, what I might do is I might just pause the video and I'll come back once it's started, so back in a second. Okay guys, and I'm back. So you can see that this is now rapidly dropping because it hit the right mark, and you can see that this is now at full power cooking that cobblestone into magma. Well, we're above the earth, so it would be lava, and it's basically cooking away, turning the 64th cobblestone that was in there into a bucket full of lava. You can see that it's taking quite a long time, but that doesn't really matter because it's been running for quite a while now, and it's up to its yellow, which is its optimal operating temperature, where it's basically just going to sit constantly. And you can see that we really have used no fuel at all out of this tank here, but we've used probably 2/3 of our first bucket. So you get quite a few minutes worth of power out of a bucket. And even if it was to run out of fuel now, because we have that bucket of lava there, as soon as we put more fuel in, it'll heat itself back up, because it only uses just a fraction of a bucket to heat itself up. And that's where this comes in. Now basically, once this reaches the full amount, it will produce a bucket of lava and will split it 50-50 between the two engines. Now that will give this engine the heat that it needs to start, and give this engine the heat that it needs to restart at any stage after it's stopped. So just wait, watch. Hopefully, there you go, you can see that it's going in, the heat's rapidly going up, and now we're producing power and powering these two machines. So you can see they're both filling up, and now once this machine is fully going, it will almost completely at maximum speed power these two machines just from one engine. And in this one here, will keep producing enough it'll produce enough energy to basically produce all the magma that it needs to get the two of them. So you can see this one has probably used almost all of it, but not quite. So really, one more bucket and you have enough energy in there to be able to stop and then start the engines again without a problem. And they will never overheat. Even once this machine wasn't there, this would just keep pumping away happily at that 550 degrees and never get any hotter. So you don't have to worry about water, you don't have to worry about anything. And then when you're looking and you're going, ooh, the fuel's getting pretty low in that one, what you can do is you can just grab this wrench here, flick that machine back, and quick smart, and you can see I've used 5 saplings so far. There you go, it's pumped another half a bucket back into this machine. So really, really easy, almost self-sustaining. I mean, 4 pieces of wheat, 1 piece of dirt, and 12 saplings gives you enough power to run these things for hours. And oh wow, that's odd looking. Okay, that one's full and that one's full, so both of these machines are full now, which means this machine isn't actually putting its power into anything, so its heat's building up. So I'll show you now that even when the heat builds up, it'll stop once it gets to the right temperature, and it will just keep pumping its power into nothing. In fact, it's probably still pumping its power into this machine, and it's just not using any of it. So on its way to its 550, we're running this thing through here. We've gone through most of our saplings now, but if we have a look, we're getting almost a constant stream now of biomass going in. So yeah, I mean that amount of fuel, each bucket lasts for something like 5 minutes, so maybe 10 minutes. So yeah, I mean it's just going to last for a really, really long time. And it's quite inexpensive to do. I mean, it runs on saplings, so if you break one tree, you get enough saplings to produce a couple of buckets worth of fuel. Obviously this isn't producing any at the moment because this is, but once that last sapling burns itself out, we're going to have plenty of fuel to run this for a long, long time, so we can just switch the engine back to produce some more magma. So yeah, this one here hit its perfect operating temperature and it's just stopped. Now remember how I said these things work a lot faster? Watch how quick they go when they're fully powered. So it's just like an overclocked macerator, and like I said, that will pump over here, and then this thing will go, and the power is very, very slowly going down, but as soon as you stop, whoops, it's back up to full in no time at all. So you can see it's hovering at full. So there we go. I mean, that's kind of my basic design. You can flick the engine back over now to over here. It will start to heat this up again. Once that reaches the 22, this will make another bucket of lava, and that way if you walk away from the machine, it's not going to explode because the engines will never overheat. The worst thing that can happen is your engines will run out of fuel, and like I said, this will take probably, with that many buckets of fuel, this will probably take half an hour at least in game time before it runs out. And say you go off mining and you come back 2 hours later, you'll have no fuel in this one, you'll have no fuel in this one, but what you will have in both of them is more than enough lava to restart them once you just turn this machine around and aim it at this, or you could even have the Stirling machine just there as a bit of a backup. So yeah, really simple, really easy design. Now the other thing that thermal expansion has that I just think is fantastic and I really love is a thing called a redstone energy cell. That. So the recipe for those is 2 lead ingots, an energy cell frame, a redstone conductance coil, which is the same as was in those other machines, so we need 3 electrum, and the way you make electrum is you smelt the electrum blend, and the electrum blend is silver and gold. So it's a bit more of a complicated machine to make, but I think in the end that it's worth it. Now you have that energy cell frame, and for some reason NEI doesn't give me a recipe for it. So I'm not 100% sure about this bit. I've looked at the wiki and the wiki doesn't seem to have it either. I'm not sure whether it's an NEI bug or whether it's something that you can't actually build. So maybe we can only build empty energy cells. There we go. So we need hardened glass, more electrum, and a diamond. So this is getting a little bit more expensive, and the hardened glass doesn't come up with a recipe, but basically you have to smelt obsidian dust, and you have to smelt pulverized lead dust in an industrial it's called something smelter. There we go. In an induction smelter, which is like the step up from this particular furnace here. So again, this is a little bit hard to do, this machine, but what's really cool about it is we put it down there now, and it will take all of this redstone energy, or all of this Minecraft energy, and it should be charging right now. Ah, there we go. So it can hold up to 600,000 Minecraft joules, and once it basically finishes storing it, you will have any other machine be able to use it. So if I was to break this pipe here, you can see that there's now no longer any power supplied by this machine. And just to show you how cool these are, you can see it's still not heating up, but it's storing the energy. I'm not sure if it'll explode if it stores too much energy. I've never actually tried this, but what should be able to happen now is if we put this in here, it's using power, and this should be supplying it back. At least that's what I thought I read on the wiki. Maybe we need a wooden conductive pipe to help get the energy out. Again, this is something that I'm just kind of testing on the fly here. Yep, there you go. We need a wooden conductive pipe to get the energy out. So now it's basically putting all that energy back out into these machines to refill them. So that's I think that's a pretty cool machine, a pretty cool setup. It does use a diamond, so it's probably about the most expensive machine that I've made so far today. You can see the little red indications come on here, which means this is making its magma, and you can see it's got lots and lots in there and lots in there. It's still got silly amounts of fuel, which is why I just think this is such a great design. You can go underneath and compact it quite a lot too, so it really doesn't take up much space either. And I think that gives the standard kind of IC2 machines that you see at the very beginning of the video a bit of a run for their money. So thank you very much. I hope you check out the Solitary Craft pack. If you would like to know what mods I'm using when I'm playing it, now it's quite a big list. There are huge amounts of mods in the Solitary Craft pack, and it's another pack that you can get from the Astocky team launcher, along with the Almighty pack, the HeroCraft pack, and my own pack. But the mods I'm using, just going to be a quick run off here: Optifine, Tricapitator, both of the Nether Stuffs, Iron Chest, Raise Minimap, Factorization, Thermal Expansion, Soul Shards, both of the Mistcraft mods, Extended Fuels, Traincraft, both of the Immobus Core mods, which is Immobus Core and then Tube Stuff, Cogs of the Machine, EE3, the Advanced Solar Panels, the Charging Pad, and all three of the Wireless Redstone mods. So I played for probably an hour or so today before I derped and lost my save, but I had already made both of these machines, the fermenter, this thing here, and the single biofuel engine that was running both of these machines. And I mean, it didn't really take very much time at all, so I think it is a really good way to do things. And this little setup here beats the heck out of trying to find yourself an oil spawn and then pumping the oil into a refinery and making a refinery which requires a diamond gear. So yeah, I mean, I've used nothing but a couple of pieces of gold and some iron and some redstone, and I've got, well, not quite the equivalent output of a refinery, but something that's pretty close, and it's an endless resource. So again, hope you check out the Solitary Craft pack. Thanks very much for watching. Astocky out.